Well, hello everyone, and welcome to John and Louise Do Life. And we're back for a new series during lockdown.
Hope that you all had a lovely Christmas. We certainly did.
We did.
There's only 7 of us this year, and usually we have a house full of people, but it was still lovely to spend time with family, even if it was just for one day. So hopefully you had a lovely time too.
And in this first episode, we have Justin and Jesus.
We're going to be asking the question, is the COVID vaccine safe?
We're going to look at some great recommendations to keep you occupied during lockdown.
And also things that go bump in the night.
So first today, Justin and Jesus. And first of all, I think Louise ought to explain who Justin is.
Oh, you're kidding. Right, well, we're talking about Justin Bieber, who is a 26-year-old American singer-songwriter. He's very popular with the girls, and he's American. He comes from a Christian family. He's married. He's got a Christian wife, and I think she is one of the Baldwin family. So they're a whole family of actors as well.
Yeah.
So it's a big celebrity family that have got together and created this celebrity dynasty, I guess you could call it. But he's very, very popular in the music world.
I think at one stage, one of his videos was the most streamed ever on YouTube with billions of watches. So that's how big he is. He's like the world's number one
But he
pop
doesn't
star.
produce Christian music per se. He does do a few Christian songs every now and then, but it's mainly pop and just sort of ordinary music, everyday music.
And to be fair, he's struggled with his faith a bit, hasn't he, in the last few years, or perhaps previous to that, but has become more strong in his faith recently.
Yeah, I think that's all to do with having a wife.
It's what sorted me out, was it?
It's helped stabilise it a little bit. Yeah, definitely.
I think actually they were very honourable even before they got married, weren't they? I think they were committed to one another without sleeping together even before they got married. And they were happy to say so too.
Yeah.
Anyway, Justin was a part of Hillsong in New York. Now that all went a bit pear-shaped when their pastor was accused of some immorality, which turned out to be true. So he was let go and disappeared. But it seemed that the church actually had a big celebrity culture where they worshipped, if you like, almost pop stars.
Okay.
If you were a celebrity, you were welcomed into the front of the church. You had your own special place. And it was almost like everybody could sort of look down on you, and you were there right next to the pastor. And I'm just wondering if actually, is that what church is supposed to be about?
No, I don't even know why you'll bother asking the question. I mean, it's just a big fat no as far as I'm concerned. If you're ushering the celebrity right to the front and you sit next to them and you think that you're something important because you've got Justin Bieber sat next to you, I think it speaks volumes about your personality and character. And if you're saying Justin Bieber comes to this church, so you should come to this church, then Jesus is obsolete because you're not coming to meet Jesus, you're coming to meet Justin Bieber. I think it's terrible, but I mean it's common practice.
Yeah. It's actually what James, in the book of James, is actually writing against, isn't it? Because he's warning the church there that they were welcoming all the rich in and and putting them at the front, and the poor they would just, you stand at the back in the corner, we don't want to see you. And James was saying that's not right. You've got your priorities completely wrong. And I mean, I'm not criticising Hillsong New York, because actually what they've done actually is come in very strongly, removed the pastor as soon as the allegations came to light.
Yeah.
They've removed the pastor and they're trying to sort everything out.
Yeah.
But so Hillsongs are doing good and trying to sort things out.
So really, you're kind of talking about celebrity being the pastor thinking he's a celebrity, or thinking he's got such a huge following that people are flocking to look at him and see him or her. There are a few female pastors, but just to kind of, it's not, I think they probably used Justin as a sort of a way of getting people in and saying, hey, we've made it and we're a successful church, because even people like Justin Bieber come to us. Although there are a lot of celebrities that go to Hillsong's New York.
There are, yeah.
But you don't hear so much about them. Maybe they're a little bit more private about things. But,
Anyway, it's interesting this week. Justin there's been rumours flying around that he's actually going to quit the music industry and he's going to become a pastor himself. And he's been quick to quash those rumours. Dear Justin, I don't think he's quite ready for that just yet. But here's some of the things that he said. When asked about his faith, and what church he was part of, he actually said that really he's a part of a church in Seattle with a pastor there called Judah Smith. But because he lives in New York, he's actually only part of their online community. So he said he's part of the online faith community led by Seattle pastor Judah Smith. Speaking into the nature of his remote faith community, Bieber added that church is not a place. We are the church, he wrote. We don't need a building to connect with God. God is with us wherever we are.
Well, that's been a major point for every at the moment during COVID, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we just get so used to going into a building every week. It becomes it's habitual. And what does that do to your faith after a while if you just feel like, oh, it's Sunday, we have to go to church or we have to be there?
Well, I mean, I've preached it often enough that church is not a building. And yet, if we don't go to church,
I know,
we feel like people
feel like there's something missing, something wrong.
Yeah.
I know, it's...
But
is it a mindset?
Well, clearly it is. It's what we used to, isn't it? Every Sunday, 11 o'clock, you go to church.
But it's important to meet together and to be
absolutely.
together.
One way or another.
But we can still do that at the moment. It's really tough, but we can still be together in a Zoom community, can't we? And
we can still do that. We can do it on Zoom. We can just meet together with people on the phone, if necessary. We're completely banned from mixing with anybody else, aren't we? Except our own household, our own bubbles at the moment. But so that's tricky. But we can still be the church. And I said on Sunday when I preached about the church in when Stephen was persecuted and martyred, and the church was persecuted, and they spread all over the place. They probably went to places where there was no church, some of them.
Yeah.
But what they did is they became the church. They met just as a family. They just met as a few people. And the gospel spread. Jesus used that to actually build his church.
Yeah.
That wasn't a wrecking of the church. And so lockdown doesn't need to be a wrecking of the church. It can be the greatest blessing to the church and the way to build church.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we've just got to see it how God sees it. That this is not the biggest disaster to church. This could be the making of the church.
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm really quite excited about it. Yeah,
we've definitely been pushed out of our comfort zone. Personally, we would not be doing this unless we were, having to do it to be able to communicate and reach people, because I guess you just think, well, we're too busy to have to do that on top of everything else. But I think that church is going to look different, but I don't think it's going to look worse. It's just going to be different. It's
going to be different for some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep praying for Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
He is a believer. He's a believer.
Hey, that could be a thing.
That is a thing, I think,
Justin
the believers.
Believer.
But he's a believer. And he is an example, Christian example to many out there. So pray
with
for
all the pressures and everything that goes with being
easy.
A celebrity. It's really tough.
Difficult.
So
yeah.
Anyway, that's good. Next up, we're going to be talking to Jabu Varghese all about the COVID vaccine.
All right. Well, our guest this evening needs no introduction whatsoever. Everyone will know you, Jabu, from Crossroad. And for those of you watching who aren't from Crossroad, then Jabu is very much a member of Crossroad, and we're proud to have him as one of our elders. So Jabu is also a consultant in the NHS, specialises in skin cancer. It's skin cancer or just skin generally, is it?
It's skin disease, and skin cancer is the big area of my work. It's
Right.
generally all to do with skin.
Right.
Okay.
But also, Jabu will have some expert knowledge on COVID as well. So, Jabu, we're going to, without further ado, we're going to dive straight in and ask you, what is the state of the hospitals at the moment treating COVID? Are things busy as we hear?
The number of cases are on rise. There's no doubt about that. So we are at a very critical point in terms of number of cases, admissions, and the number of COVID positive cases. So the admissions have risen since the end of November, and it's continuing to spike at an alarming rate. So unless we do something at this point, we are not going to escape. I'm so pleased to say that the vaccine has given us some light at the end of the tunnel. And a lot of our healthcare workers have already received their first dose. And I won't be surprised. I'm sure a lot of our elderly population will have received their letters already. I think the Seaton Community Hospital is where some of the activity is happening already.
Yeah.
And I've also signed up myself to volunteer to inject people. Even before I get my vaccine, I will volunteer on a Saturday or Sunday, whenever I'm called for. Called to duty. I will go ahead. I think that'll be just completely volunteering, just to get this. I think we need to vaccinate as many people as possible.
Yes.
And that
So
is
how do you?
Sorry,
Dewey. How do you feel then when people refer to this whole COVID epidemic as a hoax? How does it make the staff feel and the people that you work with?
I think it's partly because of the media, which have skewed. Well, in many ways, the media has projected very false news regarding this fake or the scam news or whatever we call it. But COVID is a real entity. We can't say, or we can't run away from it, because we are seeing our own people. Even this morning, I got a sad news I should share with you all. Professor O'Donnell, who is a famous renal physician, he died of COVID infection. He was such a talented physician, renal physician. He's not the first one. We've lost others. And I know so many other doctors and nurses. And you must have seen the recent email from Samantha saying the number of cases in their wards who have been positive. And that's just an alarming rate. The whole ward has been affected by COVID. So it's not true to say, I really feel sorry. I think in many ways we should be quite respectful for people who've lost their families. And I really feel very sorry when people are sad in many ways to say that there is no COVID. There is a real infection and it's out there. And unless you get it, you would never feel the difference. Even yesterday, I have to send a picture from Joshua's friend on WhatsApp. And I looked at that rash on the lady's finger. I said, she's probably got COVID. She tested this morning and she's positive.
Wow.
What I'm trying to say, it's out here, it's here in Devon, and this person doesn't live very far from us. So it's out here. So we got to take all the precautions, especially our elderly population and us, each one of us, to contribute to safety of our population.
Yes.
And I think it's all our responsibility as citizens and responsible Christians, more importantly, that we protect each other.
Yeah. Okay. Talking about the virus and, the vaccine, what's the difference between the AstraZeneca one and the Oxford one?
Well, there are a few differences. Obviously, both the vaccine is aiming to project or create an immune strength in our body by producing this protein, which will mimic the protein spikes that the coronavirus has got. So our body, in other words, we are training our body by using a way to get into the cell, the cytoplasm, wherein the cell, where the ribosomes manufacture the proteins against this virus. So that's where all this activity happens in the cytoplasm. So there's two vaccines that we just talked about. One is the Pfizer vaccine. Now, this is a very clever technology. It's never been used before, but that is one of the reasons why we are able to generate so many vaccines so rapidly, is because this technology of lipid nanoparticles, wherein it can penetrate into the cells without harming the nucleus, and it goes in and produces this protein, which is similar to the coronavirus spike protein. So when it's injected in small quantities, so you are supposed to get 2 doses. I think you have a question about that. I'll just quickly cover that as well. So you have to have a 1 dose, and then followed by the Pfizer vaccine. It is about 21 to 22 days. You have the second dose, or in 3 weeks' time. So that is how the vaccine is being scheduled. In the first, when you have the vaccine, first of all, you have a possible flu-like illness, which is a possible side effect with this vaccine. You can get a bit of soreness and redness, and sometimes feel a bit flu-like. That's very common, actually. And then in 28 days, or 22 days, sorry, you should get the second dose, which is a booster dose. Now, the Pfizer vaccine is an mRNA vaccine. So what happens is an engineered synthetic mRNA vaccine. So it triggers the similar spike protein by entering the cytoplasm of human cells once it's injected, and that spike protein mimics the protein of coronavirus. Now, what happens, what we're doing literally is we are training our immune system so that when you have your booster dose, you have this sort of mechanism in your body memory cells. Let's call them memory cells. Your body's memory cells, the T cells, will recognize this COVID virus in the future. Say you have an infection, it'll immediately recognize and it'll immediately fight against it and reject it. The macrophages form and get rid of it. Now, coming back to the other vaccine, that's also a very interesting one, which is AstraZeneca vaccine. It is from an adenovirus derived from a chimp. And this is a DNA virus. It's a DNA virus. So this is the part of the cell of the cell that is used from the adenovirus is the DNA. So the DNA part of it is engineered similar to the coronavirus by the scientists. Now, I don't know how it's done. I only know it's genetically engineered. So that part of the DNA, and that DNA is then introduced into human body by the injection. It's very tiny particles, but once it's injected, it does exactly the same. But this time around, instead of entering the cytoplasm, it enters the nucleus and it produces mRNA. So that's exactly what the Pfizer vaccine does, but the other way around. So it goes into that. Now, there is a subtle advantage with this vaccine. One is it doesn't need extreme temperature for storage. So for that reason, it can be manufactured in large quantities, especially in poorer nations like India, Africa, and other countries. So it can be produced in large quantities. The other thing, which is very interesting, is one of my friends was volunteers, so I know a little bit inside what happened. There are 3,000 volunteers in UK which participated in this AstraZeneca. They got the dosing wrong. They used only the half the dose in the first dose, and the second dose, which was after 21 or 22 days, was a full dose. But they found a better benefit, 90% efficacy, compared to what they did in Brazil. In Brazil, 9,000 volunteers were introduced, of which they gave the full dose of the first and the full dose after 28 days. And they've got only 64% efficacy. So even the scientists are a bit alarmed of why this sort of variation. But the good thing about AstraZeneca virus, which I think most of us will get, I hope so, is that the important thing is they have found it not only prevents the COVID-like symptoms, but it also prevents infection, unlike Pfizer vaccine, because they did nasal swabs throughout the study. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's cheaper than the Pfizer vaccine. It's about $30. This is only $3 to $4.
Wow. Okay. So some people are concerned that they have had one injection already, and now they aren't going to get their booster at all in time. So are they still protected after having the first injection?
They are. All the studies were programmed for 3 week, 21 to 28 days period. All this AstraZeneca and even the Pfizer. Unfortunately, because of the requirement of number of vaccines, the government has agreed to extend the booster dose to 3 months. I don't think we're going to lose out a big deal on it, because this 28 days was just an arbitrary figure for the study. So
Right.
that's what we're basing it on. But really, just like I pointed to you about, accidentally they gave a half the dose and they gave a full dose, and it was still effective, and it produces 90% efficacy. So really, there's a lot of gray area that we don't understand.
Mm.
So there will be mix and match, and we'll find things. And even I'm sure you might have a question about the variant. Will it be effective against the variant? Yes, it will be effective, because it's still the same spike protein. And even if the scientists need to alter it slightly in the future, this vaccine can be easily altered and tailor-made according to the current variant.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Time's whizzing on. So let me ask about side effects. Are there any known side effects of the vaccine?
Yes, there are common side effects. You will have, usually most patients will have some flu-like illness sometimes, slight fever, aches and pains, and in some cases you could have gland swelling about 2 weeks after the injection. Very rarely, if you've had a reaction to the vaccine, you must tell. If you've had any reaction to any previous vaccine, you must report that, because you might have a severe reaction. It's never happened, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that should not have the vaccine?
That's a good question, but really everyone should have the vaccine. There's nobody that should not have the vaccine. Even pregnant mothers breastfeeding can have the vaccine, and it's found to be safe. So there is no reason that anyone should not have the vaccine. I would well say probably infants. Well, at the moment we have not trialed on infants, but other population can. But this new variant, interestingly, is also attacking the children. So I think it will open up, and they will find that they might reduce the dose and give it to children as well. So it should be, especially the highly vulnerable population, elderly should receive it.
Right. Okay, that's good.
One final question, Jabu. I think I know the answer, but are you going to have the vaccine?
Yes, I would certainly. I would be. I think there's clear evidence to say that the vaccine not only protects me, but if I take the vaccine, I protect my neighbor. So as the Bible says, love your neighbor. So we create a herd immunity. If me, Louise, and John take the vaccine, we are creating 3 more people in the population who have taken the vaccine. Therefore, we are going to create an herd immunity. Therefore, there might be a population of people who do not want to take it for some reason. I think we should respect them. We still love them. They're still our brothers and sisters, but we would give the herd immunity to them, like we've done in the past with polio and other things.
Brilliant.
Now, polio is completely eradicated. It was at one point, just imagine, we had polio, and you should see in India, there were so many children who were crippled, but now you don't have that anymore. So it is because of a vaccine that's cured. So let's go back to the times. There's lots of other diseases that have been eradicated completely.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jabu, so much for your time this evening. It's been enlightening.
Yeah.
I feel more intelligent now than I did.
Well, I feel encouraged actually, and more positive about it. There was a lot of negativity about it because it's come about relatively quickly. People are a little fearful that it hasn't gone through years and years and years of trials. But I actually feel very positive about it. I mean, we are definitely going to take the vaccine when it's offered to us. We don't have any doubts at all, but we know that from what you've said, I'm sure it's going to be an encouragement to other people that are a little bit wary and a little bit worried about side effects or whether they should have it or not, or so that's great. Thank you ever so much, Jabu. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good evening, both of you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Right, and now it's time for some of our lockdown likes. Some of our recommendations that will help you through these next few weeks. So I think we'll start with Louise first.
Okay. Well, in this house, we happen to have Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Channel, plus all the other standard TV channels, because each of us pays for different ones so that we all share it together. So for those of you that have got Amazon Prime, there is a brilliant film called 1917, and it's based in World War One, and it follows two soldiers that have to take a message to stop an attack. And one of the soldiers discovers that his brother is part of the battalion that's going to be attacked, and so it follows him and his journey to get to his brother in time. It is brilliant, and it's been nominated and received many awards. It's been really, really well filmed. It's very gritty, it's very true to life, so don't expect anything pink and fluffy, because it really isn't. But the very unique thing about this film is that it follows these two soldiers almost as if it's like one shot. I mean, obviously they didn't do it in one shot, they did it over a period of time. But you follow them through 24 hours. So you go through the whole day and the whole night with them, almost like you're the third person there. It's like being a fly on a wall, really. But it is brilliant. We thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, we saw it at the cinema, didn't we?
We did.
Yep.
It was in widescreen,
And it
so that
was
was brilliant.
with surround sound and everything
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
It was quite something. But even on the small screen, it's going to be really
So
good.
that's Amazon Prime,
Yeah.
and it's called 1917.
Yeah, very good. Okay, that's a great start.
Okay.
I'm going to go spiritual now.
Okay, that's fine.
Let me recommend a ministry to you. If you like, it's a guy called Dr. Michael Brown, who's a Jewish believer, got radically saved, and he's been sort of there, part of the charismatic movement for many years now, part of the Brownsville revival and things like that. But he's got a brilliant website, Facebook page, Twitter account, and he does a lot of stuff on YouTube. He produces videos a couple of times a week, something like that. And he's looking at all the things that are going on from a Christian point of view, but also as a Christian, he's sort of questioning some of the things that are going on in America with the election and that sort of thing. So I thoroughly recommend to you the ministry of Dr. Michael Brown. Check him out online on his drbrown.org, I think it is. But if not, check him out on Facebook, on Twitter, probably Instagram as well. If
Is
you
he
look.
on YouTube?
And definitely there, he's got a YouTube channel as well. He's a real wonderful Christian voice of reason in the madness that's going on.
Brilliant. Okay, so back over to the non-spiritual side of the relationship.
Actually, I think you could probably get quite a few sermons out of 1917, actually.
You probably could,
I think
actually,
there was a lot of sermons there, so yeah,
Okay.
go on.
Right, well, if you missed any really good films over Christmas, don't forget that BBC iPlayer have got most of them still available, and they're going to be there for quite a while because of lockdown. Most of the television channels have come up with box sets and all kinds of things for us to watch, but all the Christmas movies are still there. And so if you get a chance to watch one of my all-time favourite movies, it's got to be High Society. I love it. Me and Jesse sat and watched it. I made him, and we sang through all the songs because, believe it or not, he knew them. So if you want to sing along to True Love or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I do, then you will love it. So don't forget, BBC iPlayer has got loads and loads of movies for those boring nights when you can't find anything on standard TV. It's got everything.
Wonderful. Darling, if you wanted to be a millionaire,
Yes.
you married the wrong bloke, unfortunately.
Okay.
But never mind. You probably are a millionaire in rupees in Russia or something.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, another recommendation is a podcast. I'm going to recommend a couple of podcasts. First one is Theology in the Raw, and that's your friend Preston Sprinkle.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a great name, is it? Preston Sprinkle.
There are some very interesting names going out there, but there we go.
Preston, he's a great guy, produces 1 or 2 podcasts a week looking at some really gritty issues. So all of the things that Christians are facing at the moment with the LGBTQI questions, transgender questions, but also he looks at people's views, the current views on hell and all sorts of other things. It's about an hour long, everyone, and he isn't afraid to just tackle some gritty subjects.
Yeah.
So Theology in the Raw by Preston Sprinkle. It's on Spotify, but if you just go onto his website, you'll be able to find it wherever you get your normal podcasts.
Okay. Well, the last thing I want to recommend is a phone app. And my kids will be really surprised at this because I am not a techie person at all. In fact, I've only had a mobile phone in the last few years. I don't do mobiles really. It's only so the children can get hold of me.
So you know what an app is, do you?
Yes, actually,
And do you want to explain
I
to
do.
everybody else
No,
what an app
I
is?
don't. It's an application for your phone. And I have just discovered an application called Redecor. And it's an interior designing application. It's brilliant fun. It costs nothing. It's totally free. And basically what you do is you redesign rooms with different materials and fabrics and wallpapers and woods, and then you go up against other people who've redesigned the same room, a kind of like a duel thing, to see if you win points, or you might win cushions for your next project. Anyway, it's really good. It's called Redecor, which is REDECOR, and it's totally free to is it download? Oh, getting the technology right here. It's completely free to download, completely free to play, and it's really good fun.
Yep. I think we ought to put a little warning in here.
Oh, yes?
It can be addictive, can't it,
It is
Tiny?
not remotely addictive. It's really good.
It can be very addictive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Final recommendation then
Okay.
is another podcast, and it's called the Equip Podcast. And that is a British one. It's done by an Englishman living in Northern Ireland and a Northern Irish guy who's living in Scotland. Yeah,
That sounds like the start of a really bad joke, doesn't it?
It's not. It's very good. Again, these podcasts are about half an hour, 25 minutes, half an hour each. And again, they deal with some real interesting subjects. And from a solid scripture point of view, if you ever wondered what sort of the church's view is on this, that and the other, then go and give them a listen. They are very, very good. So that's the Equip Podcast, and it's Pastor Jim is one of the guys involved. I thoroughly recommend it. Again, it's on Spotify. Actually, we'll put a link for both of them
We'll put
below
some
this
links
video.
on there for you to find everything that we've talked
And
about.
your app, your
and
little
my
app,
app, which
yeah.
is really good,
Yeah.
regardless of what John says. But we just want to encourage you to do other things other than just watch the news. Don't have the news for breakfast, the news for lunch, news for tea, and then watch it just before you go to bed. You know, keep up to date with what's going on, but don't stuff yourself with all this negative thing that's going on all the time. Find other things that are more interesting and a better way of spending your time, I guess.
Yep. Well,
Anyway.
I think that's nearly it.
It is.
And finally, we have. You probably know that I'm a bit of a Twitter addict, and there was a very good thread on Twitter yesterday that I came across. Somebody tweeted that their partner, in the middle of the night the previous night, had sat bolt upright in bed and terrifyingly shouted in the dark, "Will there be a buffet?"
What, in a northern accent?
I take it they're northern. They're from up north, so I take it's a northern accent. And that just started a whole series of tweets from other people going, "Last night, my other half rolled over and whispered, 'Probably not going to need all these parachutes.'"
How weird.
Although the best one is when she woke, and this is a woman.
Okay.
I can't believe it. She woke me up, shaking me and shouting my name again and again. "Jake! Jake! Jake! What? What is it? I think we should go to sleep now." And then she turns over and starts snoring.
Well, that's never happened to us, has it? Neither of
No.
us speak in our sleep.
No, and there's plenty more where that came from as well. So I think we'll
Anyway,
leave that one there.
We will. Hopefully, we will see you next time. Have a great week, and hopefully you'll take up some of our recommendations and watch some movies, listen to some podcasts, read some good books.
And if anybody you know has said anything weird in their sleep, please let us know. We'll keep it a secret, honest.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.